What makes an army of 300 defeat an army of 1,000? How can a trench stop 10,000 soldiers? And what did a warrior king do after recapturing a holy city? Islamic history is filled with moments that didn't just change battlefields, they changed the course of nations. In this video, we'll take you through 5 of the most powerful and inspiring battles in Islamic history. These aren't just war stories. These are real events that carry powerful lessons about faith, leadership, sacrifice, and wisdom. Whether you've heard the names before or this is your first time, you're about to see them like never before, with clarity, context, and lessons we can still apply today. 1. The Battle of Badr, of faith against the odds. Year 624 CE. Location near Badr, west of Medina. This was the first major battle in Islamic history. A small group of 313 Muslims, led by Prophet Muhammad, faced an army of over 1,000 from the Quraysh of Makkah. The Muslims were poorly equipped, only 2 horses, 70 camels, and very limited weapons. Yet they stood firm, driven by purpose, unity, and faith. The Quraysh were confident of victory. But the Muslims had one thing they didn't: complete reliance on God and strong leadership. The battle ended in a shocking victory for the Muslims. Why it mattered? It was a turning point. It showed that victory doesn't depend on numbers or weapons, but on strategy, belief, and unity. It gave confidence to the early Muslim community and shocked the enemies of Islam. What we learn: never underestimate the power of belief. When you have purpose and discipline, even the strongest enemies can fall. 2. The Battle of Uhud, or lessons in obedience and mistakes. Year 625 CE. Location Mount Uhud, north of Medina. A year after Badr, the Quraysh returned with revenge in mind. This time, their army was nearly 3,000 strong. The Muslims numbered around 700. At first, the Muslims were winning, but a group of archers disobeyed the Prophet's orders and left their position early, thinking the battle was over. That mistake exposed their rear flank. The enemy launched a surprise counterattack. Many Muslims were killed, and the Prophet himself was injured. Why it mattered? It was a painful defeat, but a necessary one. It taught the Muslims the importance of discipline, patience, and following leadership in all situations. What we learn: one small mistake can turn victory into defeat. Even when things are going well, never lose focus, never disobey clear instructions, especially in leadership and teamwork. 3. The Battle of the Trench, winning without fighting. Year 627 CE. Location Medina. This time, the Muslims were not outnumbered. They were surrounded. Over 10,000 enemy troops from multiple tribes formed an alliance to attack Medina. Instead of facing them in open battle, the Muslims did something unexpected. They dug a trench around the exposed parts of the city. This idea was suggested by a companion named Salman. The trench worked. The enemy couldn't enter the city. Days turned into weeks. Tension grew. Harsh winds and fear spread through the enemy camps, and eventually they gave up and retreated. Why it mattered? This was not just a battle of swords, it was a battle of ideas and patience. The Muslims won by being strategic and united. What we learn: sometimes, the smartest way to win is to avoid the fight altogether. Planning, preparation, and staying calm under pressure can defeat the biggest enemies. 4. The Battle of Yarmouk, the fall of an empire. Year 636 CE. Location Yarmouk Valley, modern-day Syria, Jordan border. This was a battle that changed the world map. The Byzantine Empire, one of the most powerful empires at the time, sent over 100,000 soldiers to stop the Muslim expansion. The Muslim army, led by the brilliant commander Khalid ibn al-Walid, had less than half that number, around 40,000. But what they lacked in numbers, they made up for in strategy, courage, and faith. Over 6 days, the Muslims fought with discipline, maneuvering swiftly and attacking weak points in the enemy lines. In the end, the Byzantine army collapsed. The road to Syria, Palestine, and the rest of the Levant was now open to the Muslims. Why it mattered? It ended centuries of Byzantine rule in the region. It proved that empires could fall, not by wealth or weapons, but by courage, strategy, and unity. What we learn: Never let fear of size or reputation stop you. Even the biggest obstacles can fall if you think smart and act with purpose. 5. The Battle of Hattin, Mercy after victory. Year 1187 CE. Location near Tiberias, modern-day Palestine. This battle happened centuries later, during the time of the Crusades. Salahuddin, also known as Saladin, faced the Crusader armies who had taken over Jerusalem. He planned carefully. He lured the Crusaders into dry land during summer and cut off their access to water. The heat and thirst weakened them. When the Muslim army finally attacked, the Crusaders were crushed. Soon after, Salahuddin marched into Jerusalem. But instead of taking revenge, he showed mercy. No massacre, no destruction. He allowed the people to leave safely and treated prisoners with respect. Why it mattered? It was the beginning of the end of Crusader control in the Holy Land. But more than that, it showed the world what true Islamic leadership looked like: power with mercy. What we learn? The greatest victories are not just on the battlefield, but in character. Mercy, even when you have power, is what separates a conqueror from a true leader. These 5 battles weren't just about swords and strategy. They were tests of character, discipline, and faith. Each one teaches us something powerful. That courage matters more than numbers. That discipline matters more than emotions. That wisdom matters more than weapons. And that mercy is greater than revenge. History remembers heroes not just for what they fought, but how they fought. If you found this video inspiring, make sure to watch our next episode where we explore more incredible moments from Islamic history, battles, leaders, and stories that continue to shape our world. What makes an army of 300 defeat an army of 1,000? How can a trench stop